Hey neighbors, the handyman here with Initiative Coffee Company. The Bill Allan here with Bill Allan World and the Bill Allan. We've been missing for a couple weeks.
We've been busy for a couple weeks, Brian, but it's
time to rise and roll.
Meow. Okay, Brian, we have been away, and people, we've been away, but it's because we've been busy, and we've come back with treasures and information and new connections. It's been an exciting past few weeks.
A thrilling couple of weeks.
And exhausting.
And an exhaustive couple of weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
We put in about 50 to 55 hours at GaryCon in work. Not just like we were awake for that much time.
Right.
I'm saying 15-hour days, 3 days a week. Yeah. So it was crazy busy. But we met a lot of cool people. Mm-hmm. We found out a lot about a lot of interesting things. And, we did all the video content, so there's so much to recap. But, Brian, before we get into the GaryCon recap, which could probably be its own episode.
Could be.
Let's just zoom through a couple quick Kickstarters.
Couple of quickies.
So the first one I'm going to bring up, Dave, when you have a free chance, go ahead and creep up on this for me. This is West Virginia, a bestiary of cryptids and paranormal entities. Oh. So it was created and it funded.
Awesome. Did we meet these guys?
We did.
Yeah.
So this is created by Kristin Puckett, who is the daughter of Tracy Puckett of Dungeons and Coffee. And Dungeons and Coffee is
they're moving a little bit close to my lane here.
Well, he doesn't sell coffee.
Oh, okay.
He just drinks it on the show.
That's fine.
Yeah. So this is, I'm so excited. They had a very reasonable goal of $5,000, Brian.
Oh wow.
And they achieved $7,528. It funded. And people at home, I'm proud to say, I actually bought into this one.
Wow.
Yeah. I got in the last day, like literally with hours to spare. And I pledged at the level that gets me the hardcover book.
Cool.
So we have some things to look at. Back to the computer, Dave. This is a short video about it, but I want to just say that the reason why I like this is that it's not yet just another fantasy Dungeons and Dragons or fantasy role-playing game monster compendium of some kind. This is specific to American folklore and very specifically to West Virginia.
Cool.
And there are going to be expansions.
The expectation is to do one for each state, right?
Yes. We talked with Tracy, and he kind of gave us the overview, the insider's perspective. So let's watch this video, shall we?
The insider's perspective you only get with us or whoever else.
There are a lot of places you could go, tons of things you could see, numerous stories you could hear, and mysteries you could discover. But you don't have to go far to find things that are strange and unknown. I want to start somewhere else, somewhere closer to home, somewhere that's also just as amazing as anywhere else we could go to. I want to start here, in West Virginia. With over 90 creatures from mythology, folklore, and cryptozoology, many mysterious objects and old wives' tales, and with over 150 paranormal entities and haunted places, West Virginia is one of the creepiest places you can be. And in this book, I've recorded and drawn them all. Join me as we explore the swamps, forests, mountainsides, plains, cities, sewers, and anywhere else we can go to see the spooks, oddities, and mythical beings found within West Virginia. There is a lot we could talk about, and I can't wait to share it with you.
And we're back to the wide shot. Anytime. There we go. So, Dave, just showed you this video. Brian, the art is really cool. I like her style.
Yeah, I do too.
And we got some cool things.
Oh, cool.
Here, hold those up. So these are just like some sample pages, right? And this is a original Apple Devils.
Cool.
I can't see the thing.
Cool.
They love
I like
fruit
these a lot.
They're invisible. So it's not just monsters; these are like creatures. So
Right.
what do I like about this? I mean, first of all, yes, you can incorporate this into your gaming campaign. And what settings? Any number of settings. Like you could do D&D, Call of Cthulhu, any kind of like Revolutionary War thing, any era.
That would be really cool, like a Revolutionary or Civil War game where like it's not about the Revolutionary or Civil War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like the White Wolf games with vampire and werewolf.
Yeah.
Like this could expand
Like some of
that.
this stuff already is like Utena is already a thing in werewolf, right?
Right.
So like you expand that.
But I think
that paradigm.
it's just this kind of style. So I don't know, Dave, on my camera, can you see this? Like, can you see this stuff if I hold it up? This one probably has some glare because it's in plastic. This was a GaryCon exclusive. But I'm telling you, I didn't just back this because Tracy is a friend. I backed it because I really think it's unique. Like, I think it's cool. Yeah, you know, so much, Brian, this is like a side topic, but it's related. I'll figure out a way to reel it back in. You know how like so much of D&D throughout the ages is kind of based on like medieval Europe. You know what I mean? And yes, they do have like expansions like you know, Karatur,
the unapproachable East.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
But that's like just based on Asia, right? So but like I feel like so much of like D&D, Greyhawk, all that stuff is based on medieval Europe, and there's a reason for it because the early wargamers
We're
like
playing European war games.
Yeah. So, but this is cool. This is truly American. It's like and it's, you know, maybe it is folklore that might have migrated from Europe and evolved in America to take on its own meaning.
But it has a meaning here.
It has a meaning.
Like,
number
that's
one. Number two, it's all original art, which is amazing. It's like I love the style. You made an excellent comment when we were looking at these with Tracy. It was almost like the Diary of a Madman.
Yeah.
And I'm like, totally Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Like you could totally. This is like, you could take one of these, any one of these entries, and make an entire story arc about it, right?
These are cool.
What's that thing that you were doing, the Monster of the Week thing? Couldn't this also fit into that genre?
Yeah, I mean, Monster of the Week is largely anything.
But the concept being that, like,
right,
you know, if you pick out the Vegetable Man or the Apple Devil.
Honestly, my expectation, and it doubles off the fact that the first one is in West Virginia, is that the inspiration for this book came from Adventure Zone. Yeah. Which is set in West Virginia. It's about cryptids. Like, it's a current game, like a modern day game. But this is cool. Like,
Danny clocking in on the chat also love that art style. Yeah, I like.
Here's what's exciting to me is if they go through with this full game plan. Right.
And they do West Virginia.
If they do all 50 states, like, that is not just from a tabletop gaming standpoint, but from a historical standpoint, that is the first full collection of American folklore that is this comprehensive that I've ever seen. Yeah. Right? Like, you see, like, the big, like, I don't know, 300-page children's books that are like Johnny Appleseed and Paul Bunyan, but you don't see, like, 300 pages per state. You know what I mean? Like, I'm excited at the notion of them trying, and it's an ambitious project, but I'm excited that they're trying to pull it off, because it means we'll have a full, comprehensive, like, catalog of American folklore.
Yeah, and this I think this is not a first. So she's done other things. Monsters, Myths, and Folklore of Appalachia coloring book, which now leads to this, which is way bigger. So one of the things that I thought is interesting, Brian, is that depending on the pledge level, you could get the book with all the art and the stories, and it doesn't have game stats.
Really?
Really. So
That's
my
cool.
pledge level is actually not game stats. It's just the book. And I'm totally happy with that. Like I don't feel deprived. Like I'm paying $40 to get 4 prints,
Right.
not these copies, but like 4 more
Right.
these that are unique.
Can you share that link again? Dan,
Yeah.
I got here late.
Let me post it in all the things. And so for $40 Fleeing Apple Devil, I pledged I get 1 physical copy of the Bestiary, 4 signed prints, and this copy is a special first edition with unique cover, only available to purchase by backing this product. So because I'm a backer, I get this special copy, and like they might sell other copies, but
Right, it won't be this one.
and then name in the book with comment. That's kind of cool. Coming December, which is great. Happy Christmas to Bill.
Yeah. So what?
So if I wanted the ebook Bestiary, ebook RPG Bestiary, that for $40, I could get both of those as ebooks. The $100 level gets you the special collector's edition hardcover Bestiary.
Is that the one with monster stats, or is that the one that you did?
It's one I get. Access to the meetup. Maybe, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. They're doing like meetups and stuff too.
Yeah, they're doing meetups. They're
Yeah.
doing, I mean,
They're really trying to build a community around
stickers. Like, yeah, I am so excited. Like, this is so rad. Oak of the Palidae, the Bestiary,
this. Tabletop Beastary.
the RPG Bestiary.
Looks like the 150 price point is where the hard book for all this stuff comes.
Yeah, so you get, well, it's really 2 books. You're getting the physical copy of the regular Bestiary, the RPG Bestiary, 5 signed prints, and original artwork.
Cool.
Like,
Yeah.
so not a print of that, but originals.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
That's even not bad. I mean, that's, and then it goes up from there, and there's additional kicks that you can do. Good Lord, this
There's a
goes
lot
up
here.
a lot higher. But see what I mean? Like, I didn't need to blow $150 to be happy with this. Like,
Right.
I'm going to be very happy having a physical book.
And I'm
with
sure
all
that
these
there are
things.
people who would love to spend $600 on this Kickstarter.
Right, and frankly, Brian, for somebody like me, I don't need stat blocks. I can decide
Right.
how powerful or not powerful I
Yeah.
want these things to be, and then just implement stat blocks
Right.
for whatever. If I'm playing Call of Cthulhu 2nd Edition Chaosium,
Right.
or White Wolf version or D&D 5th Edition, it doesn't really matter. I need the art. I need the descriptions. I think that's what's going to make it cool.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a great thing on the shelf and a great reference book. So.
Good morning, DOD.
Yes. Good morning. So we're moving on, Brian,
Let's
because
move on.
that was, so we didn't meet Kristin Puckett, but we met
her dad.
her dad,
Yeah.
who is a friend and who does Dungeons of Coffee YouTube channel, mostly focusing on terrain crafting, but also like tabletopics and stuff. So the next thing was we actually met a creator named Todd, who walked up to us, introduced himself, and we got the Beastlands Monster Generator, the prototype. He basically
he
gave us
the original
a book,
which
and
I don't have with me right now.
his
but-
his his conversation starter was interesting to me. He's like, "Here you go, monsters." He's like, "That's all code," and I was like, "What?"
What?
And I'm like expecting it to be code,
Right.
But it's not. It's like monster descriptions
Stat
and
blocks,
stat
yeah.
blocks. I'm like, wait, what do you mean?
There's
He's
no
like,
descriptions. It's only stat blocks.
yeah. He made it with code.
Yeah.
So the idea of Beastlands Monster Generator is, I'm not going to show the 3.5 minute video, Dave, so just stick with me here. The idea is that he has created a system where he has, using code, created unique monsters. Whole blocks of unique monsters, right?
And by using code, I mean every copy of the book is a new copy of the book, because every individual print of the book is procedurally generated.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine this now, and it's set up to be compliant with fifth edition. So, he said, like, the generator makes 285 monsters spread evenly between challenge rating 1/8 to 26th and 14 monster types within minutes.
It's cool.
So it's super cool. It's super, like, for those of you in the world of math nerdery who love the crunch, this guy is your Einstein, dude. He's like the guy grinding away to create, something that will blow anything out of the water because it's made by AI.
Right. It's cool. We got the chance to look at it, and
it's encyclopedic.
It's cool. I mean, you have to, like, it gives you stats, right? And that's all it gives you. Right.
And it's like the opposite of this, right? So, like, this is more like it gives you the lore and the history and the art. His Beastlands generator is just math, blah.
Right.
But it allows you as a DM then to take that and go
and skin your own monsters.
I'm going to skin my own stuff, right? It gives you the engine,
Yeah.
So
it also means your players don't know every individual monster in the monster manual. It means that, like, they're not going to be using.
Beastlands provides creatures that the players will have no knowledge of. It is like having the magical feeling of running into epic monsters all over again. And we talked with Todd. Like, I had repeat conversations throughout GaryCon with him. I love everything about this concept. I love the fact that here's a guy who's combined his knowledge of programming and his love of math with tabletop stuff. I think it's the Maelstrom of Monsters with 285 monsters. Like, that's
a lot.
It's a lot. And it's also promised to estimated delivery December 2019, right? And if you cut back to, oh yeah, good, Dave, you're on the computer. Here's a sample page, right? So it's got its own kind of cool system that will look familiar to anybody who's used to, like, anything from D&D 3.0 on up.
Yeah.
Right? Very similar kind of.
You should not expect a lot of, like, graphics. You should not expect a lot of, like, high-end art, because that's not what this book is about.
Right. For $15, you can get the PDF, which is pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Considering it's giving you a PDF that is the only copy of your PDF.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
It goes up from there. Mm-hmm. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And you know what, Brian? Actually, the pledge levels are very reasonable.
Sure.
Like, there's early beta. There's, like, for $35 you get, like, a lot more stuff. Like, it's kind of that strategy. The strategy is good, right?
Yeah.
Like, stretch
Let's talk
goals.
About the end goals.
So.
Yeah.
It's all, everything that should be there is there.
Right.
Here's the problem. There's 16 days to go. He's only raised $605, and his pledge goal is $12,000. Now, Brian, he actually shows a pie chart that explains Beastlands funding breakdown. So again, this guy has a video. He's got all the graphics, samples. He's got a lot of different pledge level options.
And it's exciting to see another pie graph of where that money goes. We saw the first one of these the week before GaryCon. Yeah.
I think the problem here is that $12,000.
Yeah.
I think that's ambitious. Mm-hmm. Like, that's really ambitious. Yeah. I feel like it would have been smarter to set a goal of, like, $4,000 and then blow past that goal. Like, I think his $12,000 goal means that he ain't gonna get paid. I hate to say that, but I feel like he's not gonna achieve this.
Like, if $4,000 isn't covering his costs, he's gonna lose money on a Kickstarter, right?
Right.
Like, that's the consideration to make with these, because, like, when you hit your goal, there's an expectation you're gonna follow through, right? So I don't know where that $12,000 goal is coming from.
I mean, he breaks it down.
Breakdown here.
Data and coding costs 46%.
But it sounds like it's
illustrations and artwork is 15%. fees and credit cards. So really, I'm going to be honest. His true costs are not the data and coding costs.
Sure.
That's paying himself.
Yeah.
I mean, to be quite honest, that's paying himself.
And I'm not suggesting he shouldn't make money off of
this.
Of
course.
He's put a lot of work
Yes,
in.
he should. But the problem is that I think he set a goal of $12,000, which he's not going to achieve, and now he's not going to make anything.
It looks like $6,000 of that is
paying himself. I feel like it would have been smarter to set a goal of $4,000 or $5,000, achieve that goal, and then build up momentum through a really well strategized, and this is his first, so it's a learning lesson. So here's the thing. If you like monsters and stat blocks and all that kind of stuff, and you like the idea of being able to have a whole new compendium of stuff to surprise your players with, back this. For $15, back it, because you'll get the PDF. And yeah, physical book's great, but this isn't giving you art.
Right.
So who cares about the physical book?
Like art is broken down in the pie chart, but like I don't know how he's gonna do art based off of procedure.
And he's got like stickers and like who cares about that stuff, honestly? Like I
lot
think
of people, but
I mean they do.
Yeah.
And I'm look at me, I'm like, hey, but stickers. But I mean my point is that for $15 you can back this thing, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit behind. I'm gonna paste this into the description. If you're live with us on Twitch, or if you're watching this later on YouTube,
we'll drop it.
It will be in the description, as all things always are. But the point is I feel like it's going to be a tough go for Todd to get to that $12,000 mark.
I agree.
I mean, good luck, man. Hopefully you'll hit it, but you got to be.
It's a cool Kickstarter.
It really is. I think it's got a lot of potential, but I fear that $12,000 mark. And Kickstarter's all or nothing, man.
Yeah.
So if you don't hit that, you're not getting any of it.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Relaunch? Or do you just bite the bullet and say like, well, I just spent a year and a half coding this and now I'm not getting anything?
Right. Find somebody else who wants to buy the code, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. So that is that's kind of the thing. So Brian, it's time to switch back to GaryCon. So let's recap. GaryCon, we got in Thursday. We set up video. We shot video. We were responsible for the streaming room and recording most of the panels in the panel room, in one of the panel rooms. 45 hours. So Thursday was 15-hour day. Friday was 15-hour day. Saturday, 15-hour day. Sunday was the better part of probably 8 hours. And it was epic, man. I mean, on the one hand, we met a ton of cool people.
Yeah.
Like, so obviously all of the celebrities.
Yeah.
Like, we pretty much met, everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody was cool. I'm trying to think if there were any, like, dicks, but not really. Like, the people who you might think would be dicks were maybe the most down to earth. Like, I don't know. There were a lot of cool people. With this.
Yeah,
but
there were cool people.
But then, beside the people who we met in the panels and who we met on the streams, like, we just met a lot of like cool people.
Yeah.
Like
And I think that's GaryCon, right?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. So for people who haven't been to GaryCon, it's so this is our second year. Mm-hmm. Last year
Your third year.
Right, but last year we ran games. This year there was no time for running games.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was really... It's so different from a bigger convention, right? Like, Gen Con is cool for the Gen Con reasons.
Right.
GaryCon is another experience entirely. And I think, even though I didn't get to play or run any games, it's just it's like the community and the way, the vibe of being there.
And that's fostered from the top down, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason that Gen Con, or that GaryCon is one of the few cons that, like, doesn't have table fees.
Yeah, once you get your badge.
Right. Like, Gen Con, you buy a badge, and then you pay a table fee for every table you sit at. The same way. The same thing goes for Origins. sometimes that's a $2 table fee, but it's a table fee.
10.
Sometimes it's 40. You know, if it's like a private game or whatever. Gary Con is very transparent about the fact that if you buy a badge, you can sit at a table.
I mean, and there were, so based on just last year, 1 year, significant growth, right?
Yeah.
So there's a part of the lodge that's like the very farthest part, where they have the forum, and it's just massive conference space, right? That they divide up with like these curtains.
Yeah.
Last year, the entrance to the forum was like kind of an open space where there was like concessions, and there was like a LARP group, a local LARP group that set up an entire war camp, and they had like LARPing happening. This year, that was not the case. There were tables because they're literally running out of space.
I didn't even get a chance to see the forum this year.
Well, I was only down there because our hotel room was literally the last one. Like, you'd walk through the brick wall and then you'd be out. But I was like shocked, man. I mean, they're table upon table upon table. And this, by the way, this is separate from the Adventures League stuff. So this is like any role-playing game being run by anyone.
Or tabletop. There's a lot of
tabletop board games. There were people running games that I haven't seen in 30 years, like TSR games or first edition games of Boot Hill, Gamma Worlds, Top Secret. Side note, Top Secret. Merle Rasmussen, the inventor of the original Top Secret, and now the Renaissance man who's returned to rebuild the New World Order Top Secret game that has been launched. He was there. That was cool. But yeah, I mean, there's so many tables.
Did he remember you from Gen Con?
He said he did, but
he didn't.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, he's Merle. He's like a legend. Who am I? But like that was the thing that was cool, is that there's just so many, and they have the system where like if they have an open spot at a table, somebody reserved it, but then they didn't show,
or you
have a little flag, so you got the green flag. They had I would say a lot of the tables had openings. A lot of the games being run were newbie friendly. There were whole family friendly areas.
Oh wow!
Like I saw where like people had brought their kids. I saw one that was a pop up. So and then on top of all those rooms, there's just pop up tables everywhere. Right. I saw a pop up table where a kid who was maybe 11 or 12 years old was running a game for a bunch of adults, and this kid was killing it. She was like, I'm walking by and I stopped just to listen. She's like narrating the encounter and stuff like it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I just like that kind of feel, like you're genuinely having like a little, a vacation that is fun for everybody, and it's not so much about like the scene.
Yeah.
It was really more about the games and the community, and a lot of the old masters are there because a lot of them still live around there.
in Wisconsin. Yeah.
David Zeb Cook, who was a fundamental member of TSR and driving force behind just crazy amounts of content from more like second edition D&D, right? Tim Kask, a lot of the artists, Darlene the artist, Larry Elmore, Margaret Weiss, authors, artists, writers, anybody connected to the games, like they were all there, and just like they're there, and you could walk up and talk with them. We had some really cool panels that we shot, and by the way, all this stuff will be coming out on the GaryCon channel. So. But like it was cool. You know what? Even though I didn't get to play this year, it was just cool to see people. I'd run into people that we know from like YouTube and stuff, from the gaming communities online, and stop and chat with them. That's how we ran into Tracy and Lita, a couple times, and that's how we ended up learning about the Kickstarter. And
we got the opportunity to shoot a little bit of a video with Jason and Joel from Realmsmith.
Well, and that was like
up on your channel.
You had been communicating more with Jason for a while online and stuff about collaborations and stuff, because Realmsmith does the crates, and then we didn't find out until the day before that they were going to be like a stream sponsor.
Right.
So which was amazing, right? So like Stefan Pokorny's running first edition D&D with on a hammered game table with a buttload of Dwarven Forge terrain. And Jason comes in full like armor and regalia, and then Jason and Joel present these like special custom crates for the players at the game. And we got to talking with them, and they're, you know, just, we ended up having that interview with them talking about their stuff. And it really, I think that the Gary Con vibe is about just like hanging out with people, meeting cool people, talking about their projects. I mean, even, you know, that guy Todd, like, you know, Todd comes up with the monster, Beastlands monster generator. And, you know, I'm like, where would I have run into somebody who invented something like that and had a chance to sit with them and talk, you know, at a convention? And certainly at Gen Con, we had a little bit of that. Like, I actually bought a few board games from the inventors of those board games who were demoing them at Gen Con. And it was fun. Like, me and, you know, a few of the students picked up some of those. Another great thing was being able to collaborate with Dragon Talk, which that came together like maybe a month before GaryCon. But it was like, you know, at one point we were like, okay, we're going to be doing the streaming room and the panels, and then Greg Tito and Shelly end up, you know, booking the mornings. So they had a bunch of different cool guests. Again, some legends like, you know, David Zeb Cook, Margaret Weiss. They had Stefan Pokorny on there.
They had at least one Emmy Award winner.
Yeah, they had me on there. That was I was honored to be filler. Like, they're like, oh, this guest isn't around. Do you want to be on the show? I was like, yes, absolutely. Thank you. I will talk about our program and LionCon and all the other things. And then Latia was on there, and you know, so like it was cool to be able to collaborate with them. And I think even for them, you know, they're in the seat of power, and for them to be able to do Dragon Talk at GaryCon was good. To see another side of D&D other than just Seattle and LA.
I know that part of the reason I was in Wisconsin doing a shoot in December for them was because Greg is putting an earnest focus into like experiencing tabletop in the Midwest. And just places that aren't the West Coast. Right? I think it's easy when you're on the West Coast to kind of get so focused on how D&D is played on the West Coast that you forget that there's this whole other world out there that people like to play the game in, right? So, and whether that's, you know, talking to some of the folks from the GNS crowd, talking to Tito, talking to some other folks from out on the West Coast, everybody knows that there's more, but nobody really knows how to tap into that.
And I think we're in a position where, because Chicago's kind of between Indy, you know, for Gen Con, and it's really close to Lake Geneva, and not too far from
Twin
Ohio
Cities
and Origins and all that stuff. Like, we are in a good position to be able to kind of grow. And so here's the takeaway that I had, and I want to hear your big takeaway. Obviously, next year we are hoping, and I feel like it went really well, and we got kudos from Luke Gygax, and he's basically our boss on this. You know, I feel like it went really well, and I'm hoping that next year we'll be able to do this again with GaryCon. But I also feel like, from an educational standpoint, like, I want to block out time off camera for my students that I bring to crew to be able to play games a little bit more. That's the one thing that I wish I could have had a little more time carved out for. And maybe next year, with the right budgeting and staffing, we'll be able to do that. Because I feel like it would have been awesome for, like, Beecher to run a session of Waterdeep, or just a pop-up one-shot. Or even, if they were game for it, you know, I think it would be cool to have the high school students play in a game run by one of the celebrities, you know. And we were talking with Rudy about doing that maybe, you know. So, I mean, bottom line is GaryCon is awesome, and it's all about gaming, and I think that you know translates through the video. But I think it's also one of those things where as good as the video is, and I'm the video guy,
Right.
But as good as the video is, you have to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about, so that you can get
Because
autographs.
the video is only one component.
It's only one
whole
component.
event, you know what I mean?
And it's not just about getting autographs with, Mercer and Manganiello
Right.
and all that stuff, which I didn't do. I'm so stupid. I had my player's handbook and I didn't ask anybody but we got a picture with them and that was cool. And they were great to work with. But really, it's not about that. I think Gen Con would be about that, but I think Gary Con was about the games. Like, I would love to sit in on a few games. I'd love to run some games, and I'd love for my students to be able to play with people that aren't just their peers at this high school. Because there were, like I said, a lot of kids, a lot of high school kids, a lot of college kids, and then some old masters, dude. Like, I want to play with the old masters.
Right.
Like, TPK me, please. Like, I want.
I mean, not just the old masters, but like Tito was running tables, Merles was running open table.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it was cool, and I think that is one of the things that makes GaryCon special is that it's smaller, and that you just people are just down to play.
Right.
What do you feel like was your cool moment or takeaway or something that was memorable?
Everything was. It was hard for me to kind of like take time away to focus on cool moments just because we were so busy. I think after the fact, so last year we went to 7 different conventions, ran tables or signed up to run tables for 5 of them, actually ran tables at 4 of them, right? And GaryCon, along with Origins, were the 2 conventions where like tables filled and like I really got a chance to like sit down and play with new players. And I think like not necessarily sitting and playing at tables, although I would love to play more because I don't play often enough relative to how much I run, but the opportunity to run tables and like not only promote the setting but also like
test it
and like get to know people, right? Like to me, that's the most interesting part about sitting down at a table is like seeing the other people at the table and getting to know them and how they tick and really embracing the community aspect of the game. So I wish I would have had time to do more of that.
You know what's funny? This is related to what you said, but you triggered a memory. So remember last year I was running my game and there's that guy who came in late? And then he was kind of like a dick. And he kind of trolled my game. But it was fine. But it made me think that, like, even at GaryCon, you're gonna it's the whole community, people. It's a microcosm. And the community does have trolls. And people who will, intentionally mess up your game because they like to be disruptors. But that's good practice. If you want to hone your skills as a DM, you got to be able to handle everybody. In a perfect world, every player would be like totally engaged and not distracted by their phones. And they'd be like, yes, tell us the next part of the narrative. And they'd be into their characters, right? Well, not every gaming experience is going to be like that. But doing con stuff is a great way to hone your skills. And
it gives you a better appreciation for the tables you have that aren't
dicks.
that aren't dicks or just that are engaged, right? You don't have to be a dick to not be engaged. But like I remember last year, the first table we ran at GaryCon was like old school first edition players who were just there to huck dice and number crunch. And that's not what the setting is built around, right? And so it was just like not really a fun game for me. It meant that we got through a 4-hour module in an hour 20. Like, it wasn't exciting for me to run. I kind of felt burnt out afterwards after one game. Like, and I wasn't like excited about the event. And then the next day I had 3 amazing tables, So like it really gives you an appreciation when you have those rough tables that you just kind of have to slog through. It gives you a real good appreciation for like the tables you have that you don't. You know what I mean?
And I think that hopefully next year we'll have a little more time or balance. Maybe we can get up there Wednesday so that we have some more time. But we'll
have more rooms so we can get enough staff up there to cover.
And that's the other thing too. Even if it's not an officially scheduled game, I'd be happy to run a pop up. Like I'll bring my own folding table. Like this table, and just run a pop-up. I think it's cool. And I saw so many of those things where like somebody's running a game in a hallway and people just be like, hey, you got an open seat, and then like that's fun. That's really cool.
And I will say that if you haven't gotten your room for GaryCon for next year, you're going to be off site because the rooms opened up at 9 a.m. on Monday. By noon, they were sold out.
Yeah,
and that's the whole convention.
And don't wait. Like go to find the Comfort Inn or one of the other places that's a 10-minute drive away. Quick thing.
Yeah.
Still related to GaryCon, but kind of moving on. At GaryCon, you might have noticed, if you were watching in the streaming content, that behind the DM was rigged up a epic quilt. Mm-hmm. Nay, one could even call it a tapestry of history. And it was a bunch of GaryCon t-shirts and other GaryCon stuff that was made into a quilt. Mm-hmm. This was on loan from Tim Kask, the legendary TSR writer, developer of many things, the first and original editor-in-chief of Dragon Magazine, confidant of Gary Gygax, etc. Tim Kask's daughter made that for Tim, and now she has a business doing that. She doesn't have a website yet for it, but I have pasted it into the chat. It's Quilts, made by Carrie Kask Leung, at Carrie's Quilts.
Cool.
clung58@gmail.com. She makes quilts out of gaming t-shirts because you can't wear them all. That's so true.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm pretty sure she does like concert shirts and all that kind of stuff. So I might hit her up to do my concert shirts because I have a backlog.
LTTV shirts.
Yeah, I could do that. True. That's true. I have like a backlog of that stuff. But I think it was just kind of cool that, keeping it in the family kind of thing, local vendors. All right, speaking of vendors, still on GaryCon, we met Dan from Hammered Game Tables because he provided the feature table as part of the new Tavern series. Right? This massive beast of a table.
This 8-foot table,
Huge.
That was actually 3 tables, he told me.
Right, so it's modular. So you could you could have 5 sections if you were just had that much space, right? But point being, like, it's the Tavern series is meant to look kind of cool and distressed and beat up and and aged and that kind of stuff, and it really did. It was kind of cool. And the family who commissioned that specific piece
owns
Axe and Shield.
Axe and Shield.
Yeah, so Axe and Shield,
who make these really cool modular altitude platforms. For tabletop.
If you have flying encounters. They make like initiative. They have like initiative trackers. They have all sorts of gaming gear and accessories. But that was kind of cool to meet these people. And again, just going back to like, these are like really down to earth, people who basically just like us, like who are trying to get something started, building a community, and just volunteering like so much of their stuff. To be able to kind of participate in this really cool event. So, I mean, I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anyone else, major people who like we kind of met.
It's tough because GaryCon's not focused on vendors, right?
It's not.
There's not a lot of vendors there.
There's a vendor room, right?
There's 2.
And there's artist alleys, but they're it's not like Gen Con where it's like a massive conference, convention room, I think that there were a lot of cool things, I think I bought more stuff last year at GaryCon than I did this year because I simply didn't have the time.
Well, it was a lot of the same vendors, so you already bought the stuff.
Yes, true. There was just quite a few kind of cool vendors that have gaming stuff, and then a lot of vendors that just have kind of nerd swag. Like, I don't want to put them down, but it's like basically like I would not be surprised if I saw them in 3 months over summer at the Ren Fair. Because, their stuff is kind of generally geek appropriate, nerdish. Like, whereas some of the vendors were very, very specifically game focused and tabletop stuff. So, but so anyway, GaryCon was amazing again. Looking forward to that.
Thanks to Greg Tito for this cool T-shirt. I got a pink one too. And I got 2 more D&D coffee mugs, so I have a full set now.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Greg Tito and Shelly gave us the things that they didn't want to ship back to Seattle.
Yeah.
So all of the students on the crew got a coffee mug.
Cool.
And carafa. And some more stickers.
Yeah.
And while we're speaking of stickers, they gave us like 4 copies of Dungeon Mayhem.
Yeah,
and
and
the
Dungeon
students,
Mayhem is a cool game.
it's so...
Like,
I haven't
Shelly
played
gave
it.
me a copy at Gamehole Con
Yeah.
2 days before it came out.
Wow. So you're like elite.
And it's a fun game. It's takes 20 minutes. I know the kids in the Friday night program, like one day they spent just 5 hours playing the game. So.
The kids here have been playing it during lunch every day
Yeah.
since GaryCon. And there's non-gaming kids now that are drifting in who I would rather spend my lunch playing this game than in the lunchroom.
Yep.
So they're playing, which is cool. That's Karafa actually pointed this out. He's like, look, they're playing without being told to play.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, Karafa, you're right. It was kind of cool to see. So thanks to Dragon Talk and Wizards and Greg and Shelly for hooking us up with some more swag. We love that stuff. Brian, upcoming conventions. You have Lexicon, which is in Lexington, Illinois. That's kind of down by
down near Peoria.
It's a one-day thing.
It's a one-day, mostly like a community event, I think.
But it's hosted by a friendly local game store who wanted to start doing this stuff, and they have been growing steadily.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll take some coffee down and try to sell it.
Yeah, if you're in central Illinois and you wanna, or anywhere near that,
right?
Look it up, Lexicon.
Yep.
D8 Summit.
D8 Summit is a huge event. Huge is relative. It's 1,300 people last year. My guess is they'll be closer to 1,500 this year. And Utica, Illinois.
Okay.
It's a benefit for Illinois River Valley PADS, which is an organization that focuses on homeless populations and tries to make sure that families stay together through that homelessness scenario until they get back on their feet.
Yeah,
So
and a little bit closer to the Chicago area. For those of you,
hour and a half,
it's kind of out by Starved Rock.
Yeah,
Utica's not far from that area.
And last year they, it's mostly an Adventures League event. They have some Starfinder Society, Pathfinder Society, but it's mostly organized play. We'll be there selling whole bean. We'll probably take some of our newest Help Action Roast with us.
Cool.
Which I can officially announce is a partnership with Jake from Mini Terrain Domain.
Yay!
And supports a charity called Jasper's Game Day, which was started by now 16-year-old high school graduate named Fenway Jones in Michigan. We're really excited to be working.
And
with
we
both
saw
of them.
Fenway at GaryCon.
Yeah.
She was awesome. She and
everywhere.
her dad were there.
She's everywhere
She is.
in the
She's-
scene in the Midwest. It's crazy.
That kid's prolific.
Yeah.
And then last but not least is Origins, Brian, coming up.
We'll be there. I don't know
Talk
what we'll
about
be doing. It's in Ohio.
It's in Columbus?
Columbus.
Okay.
I think
kind of
we're
on the
gonna
bigger
go.
side of, I mean, that's a pretty big
Yeah,
con.
so it's bigger than I would say it's probably like a little smaller than GaryCon, but larger than like.
Oh, see, I thought it was.
Gamehole.
Okay, so it's way
No,
smaller
it
than
might
Gen
be.
Con.
It might be bigger than GaryCon. It is much smaller than
Much
Gamehole.
smaller. So it's
Or
still a
than Gen
small
Con.
con, but that's in Columbus in when? June?
I have to double check.
Yeah.
It's either June or July.
Yeah. So that's coming up.
And I don't know what we'll be doing. We'll go because that's where we met up with Holly last year. So it seems like it's probably a good event to continue to attend.
And I probably won't go because I teach summer school, whether I like it or not. Hashtag contracts.
I feel like it wasn't during summer school last year.
If it's in June, I'm stuck. So.
All right.
Brian, we have had, this is a hell of a show. Our fans will kill us if we don't talk about Ghosts of Saltmarsh.
Ghosts of Saltmarsh. This is what we were going to talk about like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we didn't.
And then we
have
got
time.
busy.
But I think we're just going to have to do it. So Saltmarsh is a Greyhawk book, or it's a Greyhawk city. So officially, I mean, my guess is they're not porting it to Faerun. But last year they were talking about putting out a book in a brand new setting. My expectation is that Ghosts of Saltmarsh is that. It's organized very similarly to the Yawning Portal, so it's a series of pre-published adventures that have been updated for 5e at various challenge tiers. There is a cool limited edition cover for it, as with all of the new D&D books.
For those of you who need to have the cover.
Right. If you're interested in kind of checking out what Saltmarsh is, you can check out the Dungeon Master's Guide 2 from 3.5. Pretty much half that book is a description of Saltmarsh and all the buildings and businesses within.
Yeah, so it describes the kind of the mashup. So it combines some of the most popular classic adventures from the first edition of D&D, including the classic U series and some of the best nautical adventures from Dungeon Magazine. Mm-hmm. The Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, Danger at Dunwater, The Final Enemy, Salvage Operation, Isle of the Abbey, Tamara's Fate, and The Styes.
Yeah, so this is in tandem with the very substantial WizKids Boat Mini that they put out. The Star
Remember when
Chaser.
we were looking at that? And we're like, that's so expensive.
Yeah. I've seen a bunch of people with them, so clearly it's not as expensive as I thought it was relative to people's ability.
If you're watching along live, I'm pasting this in, and if you're watching this later, the link will be in the description below.
Right.
But I mean, definitely check out the information about it. I think
here's the thing about these books, right? Is like they're AL legal content. Which, like, Adventures League legal content. So if you want to run Adventures League, I like the hard books a little bit more than the modules because there's a little bit more editing in them. The story is more coherently mixed throughout the book than in a typical season. But even if you don't play AL, there's a lot of interesting content you can play through the book, or look at the book and steal the ideas and run your homebrew. Right? Like, I expect that I'll pick up Ghosts of Saltmarsh because there's a lot of sailing components in it.
Yeah.
And the Bard's Tale is on a series of islands. So, like...
Right. And, I mean, now, here's my question. From a standpoint of the 5th edition published books, do you feel like Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide is set up in the same way as this book might be set up?
No. I feel like this book is...
Sword
far
Coast,
more similar to Yawning Portal.
Right. So, and what's the difference? So to me, the difference is a difference between, like in the old days, we would call them a source book, and then you'd have modules. And modules were adventures. Source books gave you information about an area.
I think that's
but now it's like
pretty much the case. No, I think largely there's still source books and like module books, right? So like the source books are like, there aren't many of them. So the source books are... Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, Xanthar's Guide to Everything, Volo's Guide, and the new Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes.
Okay.
And largely everything else.
So what would Tomb of Annihilation be?
That's a module set.
So, but here's the thing, there's source material.
There's some source material in there, right?
Right.
But largely that book is meant to be a
modules.
Book.
So, but I feel like, for those of you who are old like me, I think what they did was they took standalone modules and instead kind of have compiled them.
Right.
So you have more of a ongoing campaign that connects adventures, and they give you the source material for the region in which these things are set.
Sure. So that's the case with a lot of the module books. I don't know that this is going to be the case. That's going to be the case for Saltmarsh. I mean, I don't know anything about Saltmarsh, but beyond like what they've officially declared. But
does
if it's
this
more
mean,
in line
Brian,
with Yawning Portal did not have that setting information.
But does it mean when you say porting it over? Let's speculate wildly.
Okay.
Does it mean, in fact, as you have asserted, that perhaps they are going to be reintroducing Greyhawk through this introductory campaign / module setting, or
they might do?
Are they going to port it over and Saltmarsh is now going to be set in blah blah blah?
No, I don't think Saltmarsh is going to make the jump to Faerun because they've talked about a new campaign setting, right? I don't honestly. I don't really know how this is going to play out because there isn't a Greyhawk setting for Adventures League. So this might not even be Adventures League legal.
Right. Like, how does your character, who's been playing through Yawning Portal or whatever, now suddenly magically find him or herself in Greyhawk?
And the answer is they don't. Right?
They don't?
Like,
because they say, see, this is the thing. They don't say it, and they don't not say it.
Yeah.
It's very clever. Like, they say, all adventures have been faithfully adapted to the 5th edition. Furthermore, this book includes details on the port town of Saltmarsh, as well as plenty of hooks to kick off each adventure.
They don't say what setting the book is actually taking place in, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You know?
We should have asked Merles while we were at GaryCon.
He wouldn't have been able to tell us.
We should have
fed
him drinks until
I asked Tito, and he said he didn't know. And I said, you know. And he said, yeah, I know, but no.
All right, let's hypothetical this, Brian.
Sure.
Hypothetical number 1.
Right.
This is going to be the first foray into the world of Greyhawk.
Mm-hmm.
So Wizards is going to open up the world of Greyhawk again and start publishing content.
Which they made a public statement about last year.
Okay.
So,
are you feeling good about that? Apprehensive about it? What's your feeling on that?
I am for it, I guess. I don't know. The only concern I would have with that is like from an Adventures League standpoint. Because when the Eberron book came out, they put out a second kind of Adventures League track for Eberron. And I don't see them I don't see that as being successful enough for them to drop a whole third season 9 in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wizards of the Coast is bigger than Adventures League, so they don't. I mean, it's nice that they consider them, but like ultimately, they're going to put out product they think they can sell. I like the idea of a new setting.
Yes.
I would have liked to seen a different setting. I don't know that Greyhawk is different enough from Faerun for me to really be satisfying in that way. I would rather have seen like a Dark Sun or...
Well, and then here's a question, though. Are they... I mean, a lot of this is just they have the rights to this old content that they bought years ago.
Sure.
And now they're re-releasing it so that they have the ability to kind of re-monetize it, in effect. Reskin it, update it, that kind of stuff. I don't have a fundamental problem with that from a business plan perspective. And I definitely think it appeals to the nostalgia from the old guys like me who are like, yay,
that's
Greyhawk.
What was the big thing about the Yawning Portal,
right?
Is it was all these old adventure modules from like first, second, and third edition. And people were really excited about it because they could revisit, White Plume Mountain.
Yeah.
Which they hadn't played since second.
And a lot of those, maybe needed an updating because they were a little bit cheesy, and now the updates also kind of bring them back, so it appeals to the nostalgia, but it also kind of updates them and gives them a little more depth than they might have originally had 30 years ago.
Right.
All right.
My expectation is that it will be a standalone. It will be the first of the Greyhawk setting. I don't know if it'll be a full source book / module, or if it will just mostly be like modules with a little bit about Saltmarsh, and then they'll put out splat stuff on DM's Guild.
Oh,
like they did for Ravnica. Right?
Okay.
So Ravnica came out on DM's Guild first, and then that's what happened with Eberron. Eberron, I don't think there's a hard book for Eberron. It's just on DM's Guild, and so they might put PDFs out to support like Greyhawk as a setting, and then put a hard book out. Put this out as like a hard book module series with a little bit of bonus info.
Right.
In the same way that like TOA, Tomb of Annihilation, had some bonus info on Chult, but ultimately was a module.
I think I'm okay with this new format. I think I feel like what they need to do for people, and like Waterdeep Dragon Heist, is it fair to say that that's kind of in this same vein?
Yeah.
So, for a kid like Beecher, to take that book and be able to run adventures with his friends, most of whom have not played D&D,
right,
that gives him enough flavor and context and source material, but then also gives them the adventures, the modules.
And I would say that like setting information is a vastly different, I would say that's still part of the modules, right? Like I don't know that I would call it like a blended book, because when you look at the source books, you're looking at like essentially monster manuals and like bonus classes and new spells, right? Like Xanthar's Guide is like 3 new subclasses for each class, a series, some feats, a series of spells. There's not like a lot of talking about the setting there, right? It's a setting neutral book, with the exception that Xanathar is a Forgotten Realms character.
Right.
Right? Or like same with like Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, like it's mostly a monster manual with 1 bonus race, like 1 extra race of elves and Gith, right? Like it's not talking about any setting specific stuff, it's setting neutral. Sword Coast Adventurers Guide is a little bit different, I guess, because it is so focused on the Sword Coast setting, but it's also focused on like maritime play, right? Like all the subclasses in there are about like sailors or coastal subclasses, whatever, and then the spells are similar, the magic items are similar. For a book called The Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, the Sword Coast doesn't have an overarching influence in the book. You know what I mean?
It's very I felt like that was very thin, frankly.
Like whereas like Tomb of Annihilation like is all Chult and what happens in Chult,
and very and you get a lot more context. So speculating wildly, Ghosts of Saltmarsh, like maybe some Greyhawk, maybe the delve into the Greyhawk.
My guess is it will be focused on Saltmarsh. Right, it will be focused on the city, and that way you can take that city and call it something else.
Saltmarsh in the Forgotten Realms.
Well, you call it something else and put it in any setting you want, right? And it becomes setting neutral in that way.
Yes.
It just gives you a template for a city.
And honestly, just looking at the old modules from which all this is being born, there's a lot of that hearkening to the horror pulp genre.
Yeah.
Like, there's a very Cthulhu-ish ring. Like, Lovecraft wrote a lot about that kind of stuff in New England because they were on a coastals thing, and there was a lot of these old like mythological things, and I feel like you could take a lot of the story arcs and character elements and port that over into another setting.
Yeah, and I think Greyhawk is a more mature setting in general than Faerun, if I remember correctly. Like we weren't really doing modules in 3rd edition, so I don't really know like all of the ins and outs, but from my understanding Greyhawk was a little bit more mature and was like maybe the 1/4 or 1/3 point between Faerun and like a Dark Sun setting.
Yeah. It was definitely a rough and tumble kind of surviving element. Yeah. All right, people. Do you know what time it is? It's time for Monster Monday. All right, Brian. We are going to use the crowdsourcing system. So, people, if you're watching live, Brian and I. Brian will pay attention to the Twitch stream.
I'm looking right
now. We need a page number to hearken forth from the Monster Manual. We're going back, people.
Summon a beast.
And I still, you know what I have to do is make a Google sheet of the monsters we've covered.
Yeah.
So we don't accidentally recover them.
Well, it's a good thing we're reposting Monster Mondays on our on our various channels.
That's right.
And can go back and look.
Yes.
If you want to catch up on old Monster Mondays, we're posting them to our YouTube channels.
Okay.
On Thursdays.
That's right. When is Monster Monday reposts? I think it's on Monday.
I don't know. Is it Monday? I hope so.
It would be stupid if I failed. All right. Just getting caught up on the chat, too. Sorry, you guys. You guys have been awesome just listening, and Brian and I rattle on. I hope this episode's been interesting. DOD Spec Ops, hey, how's it going? Friend Alex, hello. If you're still watching, thank you. Cooper, just finished S2 of The Bard's Tale last night. Good.
Awesome. Bard's Tale Season 3 is ready to watch.
Yes.
We got to schedule another shoot.
Online. Cooper, is that Craig? I don't know. Got to get ready for work, blah, 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 blah. Nice way to go, kid. Not sure what that was about. Hello. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Logan. Thank you for checking in. Hey, Telia, thanks for checking in. Hey, DOD Spec Ops, of course, thank you. Let's see who else.
If you're in the Twitch chat, we're still waiting on a page number.
Yes. Hi, Bill, what do you teach? I teach film and television production. It's a media course at the high school level. But
He teaches
fortunately, I've
mostly
figured out a
college
way
classes.
to teach how to play Dungeons and Dragons in a studio as well. What kind of statement did they make? I don't know when that's from. Matthew says, I'm in a group that in the first session of Waterdeep Dragon Heist, we threw the adventure off course and almost burned down the town. That can be some of the most fun times ever.
That's true.
Right?
I'm currently playing a member of the Dragon Cult
Yes.
in the series on the Dragon Cult.
Yes, yes, yes. Hello, Laporta. Hello. Hello, Thomas. Greetings from Germany. Guten Tag, or should I say Guten... I don't know. Anyway, hey, Laporta, created a new character. Hey, anybody in either of these things want to give us a page number for the Monster Manual? Otherwise, I'm going to use some dice to generate a page number.
Between 12 and 350.
How about page 203? So that would be a 20 and then 3. What's on page 203, Brian? Lich. That's yours, Brian. And then Bill's is page 152. It's probably not any better, I'm afraid. Oh, please don't let it be a demon of some kind.
It's a giant, Hellerstone giant.
Okay. All right, you want the Lich or do you want the giant?
I'll
Brian?
do the Lich, I guess.
Okay.
You
So-
guys, we need to come up with some page numbers that are like CR4s. Because all we're getting is like...
I think once we make the spreadsheet, we're going to have to do a new system of... Because, like, it's death. All right, Brian equals Lich. Bill equals Hill Giant.
I think I'm not going to do... And I know that I do this a lot. But I don't think I'm going to do a Lich as an encounter. I think, or as a combat encounter. I'm going to do a Lich as, like, an NPC, basically.
Okay, but challenge rating 21 means if it's a combat encounter, there's a very strong chance of people
you're looking
dying.
at a 17th level party.
Yeah.
Minimum. I would say you could probably get by on a 15th level party if there were 5 or 6.
Yeah.
For me, I'm thinking a Lich thinks long term and doesn't really care about...
Hold on. Cut to Brian. Cut to Brian's camera. Oh my god. I'm going to kill someone in the control room.
Is anyone in the control room?
Behind the scenes camera. Watch this. Yeah, that's good.
So I think for a Lich, I'm going to focus on the long-term aspects of a Lich. He doesn't necessarily care about the party or the current events. Like, wizards that are undead and are going to live forever think long-term, not within the next 10, 20, or 30 years. So he might be a quest giver. He might be an NPC. He might be somebody that actually helps the party because it benefits his nefarious intent later on, 300 years down the line. The idea of concentrating artifacts into a small group of people seems like a really good one if I'm a Lich that wants to get a hold of those artifacts when that group of people is no longer with us. So I think the Lich is going to actually probably seem like a beneficial character in a lot of ways. He'll reward the party, he'll put them on missions, he'll get them access to magic items. And then... years after the party is no longer with us, the Lich will make his move and acquire all of those concentrated items and kind of start his presumably world takeover. But I think the idea of like fighting a Lich is like, I guess, iconic, but a little bit like boring and overdone to some degree. I don't know that like you're gonna do a better job than TOA did, or the Yawning Portal's Tomb of not Annihilation, whatever the last module in the Yawning Portal is. So I think just like using these monsters as resources rather than enemies, I think, is an interesting take on classically overwhelming villains.
Well, on Monster Monday for today, Brian, we have the Hill Giant. And I have thought of an interesting way to make the Hill Giant interesting. So for today's episode, I'm going to give you a Forgotten Realms specific encounter. Along the tradeway are a series of mountains and hills, rolling hills and mountains, where there are large caves. The Hill Giants that live there are part of the Bone Marrow clan, and they have protected this certain range of hills for quite a long time. The reason is that inside a valley around one of these hills is a microclimate that is particularly fertile earth and the right humidity levels and pH balance to grow a very specific kind of mushroom. And this mushroom is effectively, imagine like each bite of this kind of large mushroom is like a good berry, but better. So
A better berry.
a better berry, yeah. But it's a shroom, and it basically grows up the very damp, moss-covered, rotten, tree area of the interior of this valley. And these mushrooms not only provide sustenance, but they give you enhancements to your health. So they give you hit points, and they can cure specific diseases. So they're very rare. The Hill Giants aren't the smartest folk, though, and nor are they very kind to people intruding on their area. So the Hill Giants know the properties of these mushrooms, and they consume them from time to time, but they also don't exist off of an exclusively mushroom-based diet. So the problem is that an ambitious wizard wants to acquire these mushrooms because he's realized that they possess yet another benefit, and that they can be used as a component in a very powerful ritual. And this discovery has led him to wanting to acquire more of these mushrooms. Now, he could just fly in there himself and wipe out the Hill Giants and take all the mushrooms. But the problem is that he doesn't want to completely ruin the microclimate and the landscape upon which these things grow, number one. Number two, part of what makes the earth in this area, the soil, so fertile is the poop of these specific Hill Giants. There's something in their DNA that makes their poop more nutritious and nitrate rich to the soil, and that helps these mushrooms grow. So it's all of these small factors together, and the wizard can't disrupt that balance, otherwise the mushrooms won't grow. But what he wants to do is hire a party of adventurers to go sneak into the Valley of the Hill Giants. And what happens then is up to you, because you're the DM. All right, that's it. That's my Hill Giant adventure.
That's Monster Monday.
So thanks for watching. If you watched live and participated with us on the live stream here on Twitch, thank you. We appreciate your follower supportship. What's the word, Brian? Your support?
Support?
Yes.
Yeah.
And support friendship. Your supportship.
Yeah.
And
we're on YouTube, Initiative Coffee Company. We're on Patreon, Initiative Coffee Co.
Yes.
You can support us at either one.
Or on the other things, Instagram, the Twitters, follow retweet. We
Check
appreciate
out our
it.
website and buy some coffee. We'll have new coffee up very soon.
Please do, because coffee is, just on a side note, at GaryCon, there was a lot of coffee drinking. We appreciate you following and enjoying this. If you are watching this later on the youtube.com/Initiative Coffee Company website, please subscribe.
Yeah.
Please click on the bell to
Leave
get
some
notifications.
comments.
Yeah, leave us comments.
We're not big enough yet that I don't have the time to respond to virtually every comment. So if you want some YouTube gratification, leave a
what
comment
else?
on an Initiative Coffee Company video.
If you have a specific monster
Please.
that you want us to Monster Monday,
we'll do it.
do that. Because then we don't have to do the random system.
Yeah.
So be like, yo, Brian and Bill, I have an adventure coming up and I need you. God damn it. You hags. We already did that. I need you to...
Merfolk. We did
that.
Merfolk.
I need you to do a myconid, speaking of mushroom people.
Yeah.
So, leave us comments and let us know if you like or dislike things. Let us know if you have any ideas about table topics that you'd like us to talk about. Any DM tips, GM tips, what to do with problematic players. All those things that you would normally do a YouTube search for, just put the question for us. Right. Ask Brian and Bill, because we know more.
Responsive.
I could say definitively that I know more than anyone else on YouTube. Colville doesn't know shit compared to me.
Colville knows his own games very well.
Colville's nice. He was really nice.
He's a cool guy.
When we met him at Gen Con, he was like, "Oh, Bill Allan."
Don't start a fight with Colville.
I was like, "You recognize me."
You'll ruin my dreams if you start a fight with Colville.
No, you know what? Everybody has a different perspective. How about that? So Colville's great, and Andrew at Dawn Forge Cast and Cody and all the other people that are making DM tips. But ask us, because we have unique perspectives.
We have 60 years of gaming experience.
That's right.
And I won't give you the breakdown about who has 40 years and who has 20, but you could guess.
But let's just say that we know the answer. And if we don't know it,
we'll bullshit our way
yes,
through it.
It'll be the best bullshit session you've ever experienced. So that's it, people. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in live. If you were tuning in behind the scenes, peace out, bye, love you, bye. And we will see you next time.
As always, roll together. Hey neighbors, thanks for watching our video. Make sure you check out our other videos here and here. Make sure you subscribe down there and get the notifications from the bell up there. See you next time.